The World Ends With You is a 2-game JRPG series where you explore Shibuya, as in the real place in Japan, but recreated in the game. The game centers around the idea that when people die, they're summoned to the Reaper's game, which is a competition where people who also died compete for the right to be brought back to the real world as if they were alive. In the Reaper's game, there are some people or characters that the people participating in the Reaper's game call Reapers. Reapers manage the Reaper's game, and everyone else who isn't a Reaper is a participant. People in the Reaper's game can walk around Shibuya like normal people, except no one else can see them, and they're really just in another, plane of existence, basically. The Reaper's game lasts 7 days, and by the end of the 7 days, a winner is decided, and the winner gets to come back to the real world. Lots of different characters have many different reasons for wanting to win the Reaper's game, and it's very interesting to watch them be in a conflict and seeing how things turn out, and it makes for an interesting story. In general, there are lots of great character development moments, and the characters are really well written, and they feel like real people, right? So it just comes and meshes together into a great story for this series, both games. The World Ends With You as a series has 2 games. The original The World Ends With You and the Neo The World Ends With You. It also has a few, the original one has a port to the Switch, which is called The World Ends With You Final Remix. Final Remix utilizes motion controls, which make the battle system kind of worse, but if you want to play the original on modern consoles, it's the best thing you can get right now. The gameplay system in the first game and second game revolves around badges that give you special abilities. Mixing badges together to create a combination that works in every battle is important. And if you don't do it, you probably won't do very good, especially in boss battles and other important stuff. There are lots of badges, and including some that give you certain weapons or attacks, ones that heal, and others that give unique abilities like telekinesis. And there's really a big variety of them. A big variety. Having to adjust badges and gives good variety in combat, and makes the game not grow stale that quick. And the combat itself is really fun. For the original, you have to perform certain movements with the stylus, or with the motion controls in Final Remix's case, to perform attacks. It's better and more precise with the stylus on the DS, but it works on the Switch, kind of. It isn't the best on Switch, but it's decently fun. The World Ends With You also has a system of clothing, where there are several shops and several brands of clothing, and using certain sets of clothing gives you special buffs or abilities. This is sick in 2 ways. Firstly, it makes the combat have variety and makes you change up your approach in certain fights, like the badges. And secondly, it makes the world in The World Ends With You feel more real and alive with all these brands and styles in the game, both in badges and clothes. In the original The World Ends With You, Neku, the main character, has a ton of character development. I mean, others do too, but mainly him. In its sequel, Neo The World Ends With You, the whole cast has pretty much the same amount of development, maybe a little more on some, but they all have equal amount of substantial development. And one method or the other of storytelling isn't better or worse, but the games are different. If you like one way better than another, it's good, but one is not objectively better than the other. I like both ways personally. Neo The World Ends With You has a different battle system from the original. I mean, of course it does. The first one came out on the DS, and Neo came out on the Switch, the PS4 and PC. Neo The World Ends With You retains the badge and clothing system, but the battles consist of having a party of characters, each character having a button assigned to them, and when you press that button, the pin the character has equipped will be activated. At first, this seems button mashy, but as you get more badges and party members, it becomes more tactical and not mashy at all. And I think as you gain more party members, since you have more buttons to press, it really gets harder. I like the combat in this game, personally. In Neo The World Ends With You, Shibuya is still the same place as it was before, but with slight changes that indicate that time has passed, and it's changed a bit. And that adds a really good amount of world building. I love both games. Exploring Shibuya in both games is lots of fun, and after playing the games, you really get to know the place, as in Shibuya, memorizing much of the map and remembering lots of locations. It really feels like you live in Shibuya when you play. There's so many locales and brands and locations and NPCs and graffiti that it all feels lived in and real. And I really love how it's done. This series is a great experience, and if you like what you hear about it right now, I suggest you give it a shot. You know? That's all I gotta say about it. Great, man. I forgot to mention this future great, man. But I forgot to mention the soundtrack, which has been playing in the background of the video the whole time. So the soundtrack is like really good. So like, you feel me? Like, a big part of why I remember this game so fondly is because I keep revisiting the soundtrack. Not this game, both games, right? So, yeah, the soundtrack's a big selling point. And also the graphics, like, the graphics, they just look so unique and stylized. Kind of similar to how Persona 5 did it, except the World Ends With You came out before Persona 5. It's a little different from how Persona 5 does it, but like has the same like feeling of handmade, like menus and landscape, if you know, and like everything is mega stylized and all feels right. Like nothing, like there's not like any style conflict. It's like everything fits together very nicely, and the style is just very, it stands out a lot and it's very good. And there's a ton of monster variety, or noise, which is what the monsters are called in this game. There's a ton of variety in those battles too. And like there's this big dex with all the noise that you've encountered so far. And like different noise have different chances of giving you certain dodges or pins. And there are also lots of side quests to do. So it's not like it doesn't have any post-game or anything. It has a lot of post-game, big post-game. And it's enjoyable to do the side quests because they're pretty interesting. Instead of around like people like needing help with the Reaper's game, outside of Reaper's game, and you can interact with them, manage to, even though you're in the Reaper's game, and you get interesting. Even though some are pretty bad, but most of them are pretty good, and they're worth checking out at least. So there's like a lot of good things to this game, and I'm sure there's a ton of other good things that I haven't mentioned. The game's just all around great thing. And keep in mind that in this video I can't really summarize how great it is, right? That's actually all I have to say. See you.